Agnes Moorehead and Johnny Belinda Warner Brothers, Gene Simmons in Hamlet, J. Arthur Rank Two Cities Film Universal International British, Claire Trevor in Key Largo and the winner, ladies and gentlemen, the winner is Claire Trevor. In 1987, a mysterious letter was found in Claire Trevor's dressing room, and inside were secrets about Hollywood's darkest days, violent fights with Humphrey Bogart, an affair that ended in tragedy, and a shocking feud that almost destroyed her career. Today we're finally revealing what the queen of film noir was hiding and the devastating truth that made her walk away from it all. Claire Trevor was born Claire Wemlinger on March 8, 1910, though some records suggest it may have been 1909. She was the only child of Noel Wemlinger and Benjamina Edith Morrison. Her father was a French immigrant who worked as a merchant tailor on Fifth Avenue. Her mother, born in Belfast in 1877, came to the United States in 1891 with her family and later trained as a dressmaker. She married Noel in 1902, and 8 years later, they welcomed Claire into the world. Growing up in Brooklyn's Bensonhurst neighborhood, Trevor was surrounded by two distinct cultural influences. Her father brought French refinement, while her mother had a sharp Irish wit. These influences shaped her personality and later helped her bring depth to her acting. She showed an early interest in the arts and loved performing in school and church plays, but at first, she wanted to be a painter, not an actress. Her father's tailoring business did well, and the family's financial situation improved. They moved to Larchmont, New York, an affluent suburb in Westchester County. The new environment gave Trevor better educational opportunities and a more comfortable life, but it didn't change her down-to-earth nature. She stayed the same, a quality that would later make her well-liked among colleagues and fans. At Marin High School, Trevor acted in school plays just for fun. In 1928, she entered a speaking contest and won $15. It wasn't much, but it gave her confidence. After graduating, she enrolled at Columbia University to study painting, still thinking art would be her future. But something changed. The more time she spent around the arts, the more she realized her true passion wasn't on canvas, it was on stage. Encouraged by friends and mentors who saw her potential, Trevor decided to pursue acting. She left Columbia and enrolled at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City. There, she focused on diction and memorization skills that would serve her well later in her career. But she didn't stay long. After 6 months, she decided experience would teach her more than a classroom could. She left school and joined stock theater companies to learn by doing. Her first professional stage roles came in 1929 with Robert Henderson's Repertory Players at the Theater Festival in Ann Arbor, Michigan. She took part in Antigone, played a role in Lady Windermere's Fan, and performed in Chekhov's The Seagull. These early performances gave her valuable experience in front of an audience. By 1931, she had moved on to the Hampton Players in Southampton, Long Island. The pay was just $5 a week, plus room and board. At the end of the season, the cast split any profits. It wasn't much, but she didn't mind. She later called this time one of the happiest of her life. The small theater company gave her the chance to take on different roles and learn from fellow actors. Claire Trevor's rise to stardom began on Broadway in 1932 with Whistling in the Dark. The play, a comedic thriller, opened on January 19 at the Ethel Barrymore Theater in New York. It was a major success, running for a year before going on a national tour. Trevor starred alongside Edward Arnold, and critics praised her ability to hold her own among experienced actors. This role not only proved her talent but also set the stage for what was to come. Before Broadway, Trevor had already spent years training. She performed in stock theater companies and studied at Columbia University and the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, but Whistling in the Dark changed everything. When the play reached Los Angeles, Hollywood scouts took notice. Trevor loved the stage and hesitated to leave it behind, but the Great Depression made steady theater work uncertain. In 1933, she signed a 5-year contract with Fox Studios. That decision launched a film career that would last over 7 decades. Her Hollywood debut came quickly in 1933. She starred in Jimmy and Sally, a pre-code comedy drama produced by Fox Studios. She had been brought in to replace Sally Isers, but she made the role her own. The film, directed by James Tinling, followed the complicated romance between a self-centered publicist and his devoted secretary. Trevor's performance stood out for its natural charm and emotional depth. From that moment, her career took off. Between 1933 and 1938, she appeared in 29 films, playing strong-willed women or bad girls who had more depth than they first appeared. Too many of these were lower-budget B-movies, but Trevor always stood out. Her husky voice and expressive acting style made her unforgettable. She wasn't just another Hollywood newcomer, she was a presence on screen. Then came Dead End in 1937. The film, directed by William Wyler, was based on a Broadway play and set in the slums of New York. Trevor played Francie, a woman who had turned to prostitution out of desperation. She was on screen for less than 5 minutes, but her performance was devastating. In one of the film's most heartbreaking scenes, she reunites with Humphrey Bogart's character, only to be rejected because of what she had become. Audiences felt her pain. Even in such a short time, she made a lasting impact. The performance earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. Dead End was a turning point. The film was a critical success, receiving 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. For Trevor, it changed everything. She was no longer just a reliable performer in B-movies. She had proven she could deliver award-worthy performances, even in a brief but powerful role. It also led to more collaborations with major directors and actors, including several films with Bogart. Claire Trevor's journey to stardom began with Stagecoach in 1939. She played Dallas, a dancehall girl cast out by society but full of depth and quiet strength. Hollywood had a habit of portraying women like her in one-dimensional ways, but Trevor gave Dallas dignity. Her performance made the character feel real, not just a side note in John Wayne's story. Their romance in the film added emotional weight, making Stagecoach more than just an action-packed western. John Ford directed the film, and it changed the genre forever. It was gritty, fast-paced, and visually striking. Even Orson Welles studied it, watching it over 40 times while preparing for Citizen Kane. Trevor's name appeared above John Wayne's in the credits, a sign of how much Hollywood already respected her. By 1939, the film's success launched both their careers, proving Trevor could hold her own as a leading lady. While her film career took off, Trevor found another way to stay in the spotlight. In the late 1930s, she became a regular on radio, starring in popular shows like Big Town and The Old Gold Don Ammett Show. Radio was a dominant form of entertainment, and these roles kept her voice in millions of homes. On Big Town, she played Lorelei Kilbourne, a sharp and determined reporter working in a field dominated by men. Her chemistry with Edward G. Robinson made the show one of the most popular dramas of its time. Meanwhile, on The Old Gold Don Ammett Show, she performed in adaptations of plays by Mark Hellinger, showing off her dramatic range. By the 1940s, Hollywood was changing. Film noir was on the rise, and Trevor was a perfect fit. She had the screen presence, the voice, and the ability to play women who were both vulnerable and dangerous. In Street of Chance, 1942, she played Ruth Dillon, a femme fatale caught in a world of crime and deception. It wasn't her most famous role, but it introduced audiences to the side of her that would define the next stage of her career. Her breakthrough in noir came with Murder My Sweet in 1944. She played Helen Grail, a glamorous and manipulative woman opposite Dick Powell's Philip Marlowe. The film, based on Raymond Chandler's Farewell, My Lovely, became a classic of the genre. Trevor's character was beautiful but ruthless, and she played her with an icy charm that made her unforgettable. This performance earned her the title Queen of Noir, and she went on to star in several more crime dramas, each one proving she could command the screen with a single look. Then came Key Largo in 1948, the film that won her an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. Directed by John Huston and starring Humphrey Bogart and Edward G. Robinson, it was one of the defining films of the noir era. Trevor played Gay Dawn, a former nightclub singer trapped in an abusive relationship with Robinson's gangster Johnny Rocco. One of the most powerful scenes in the film had Rocco forcing Gay to sing "Moanin' Low" in exchange for a drink. She tried, but her voice cracked with desperation. The scene was painful to watch, and that was exactly the point. Huston filmed it without rehearsals to make sure it felt raw and real. Trevor's performance in that moment was unforgettable, and it secured her place in Hollywood history. By the time the 1950s arrived, Trevor had done it all. She had starred in groundbreaking westerns, ruled radio, and become a legend in film noir. Her characters were never just there to fill space. They had depth, strength, and complexity. Still, Hollywood had a habit of typecasting her. Despite coming from a wealthy, cultured background, she was often cast as hard-boiled blondes and dangerous women. But rather than fight against it, Trevor leaned into those roles, adding layers that made them unforgettable. She once admitted that acting was just a job to her, but her performances told a different story. She made even the most cynical characters feel human, giving them a depth that kept audiences captivated. Claire Trevor's career took a new direction in the 1950s when she moved into television, proving she could adapt to any medium. In 1956, she won an Emmy for her performance in Dodsworth, a live television adaptation of Sinclair Lewis's novel. She played Fran Dodsworth, the self-absorbed wife of the main character, played by Frederick March. The production aired as part of NBC's Producer's Showcase, a series known for bringing Broadway-style performances to television. Live television was intense. There were no second takes, and every moment had to be perfect. Trevor's ability to deliver a complex and emotional performance in real time impressed audiences and critics. Winning the Emmy for Best Live Television Performance by an Actress was a huge achievement. It proved she could handle the pressure of live drama just as well as she had mastered film. Today, both her Emmy and her Academy Award for Key Largo, 1948, are displayed at the Claire Trevor School of the Arts at the University of California, Irvine, a reminder of her lasting impact. As television became more popular, Trevor appeared in some of the biggest shows of the era. She took on dramatic roles in Playhouse 90, one of the most respected anthology series on television. She starred in episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, where her intensity added to the suspense. She also appeared in Wagon Train, returning to the Western genre that had shaped her early film career. Television gave her the chance to explore different kinds of roles. For an actress known for playing tough, sharp-witted women in film noir, this was an opportunity to prove she had even more range. In 1959, she played one of the most chilling roles of her career in Ma Barker's Killer Brood. She portrayed the infamous crime matriarch Ma Barker, a woman who led her sons on a violent crime spree in the 1930s. Historians still debate how much control the real Ma Barker had over her sons, but the film leaned into the legend. Trevor played her as a ruthless mastermind, a woman who was both a mother and a cold-blooded criminal. Her performance was intense and theatrical, making the character larger than life. It was a bold choice for an actress who had already proven she could dominate the screen in any role. Even as she acted less in later years, Trevor never fully left the industry. She guest-starred in Murder, She Wrote, sharing scenes with Angela Lansbury in one of television's most popular mystery shows. Her final film role came in 1982 in Kiss Me Goodbye, a romantic comedy starring Sally Field, James K.H., and Jeff Bridges. She played Charlotte, bringing warmth and experience to a light-hearted story. The movie received mixed reviews, but it was a fitting farewell to a career that had lasted more than 5 decades. Claire Trevor's legacy continues to inspire and resonate in the worlds of film, television, and theater. Trevor's life was filled with love, loss, and resilience. She married 3 times, and each marriage shaped a different part of her journey. Her first husband was Clark Andrews, a producer and director of her radio show. They married in 1938, but their relationship struggled under the weight of professional pressures and personal differences. After 4 years, they divorced in 1942. In 1943, Trevor married Navy Lieutenant Silos William Dunmore, a World War II veteran. That same year, she gave birth to her only child, Charles Dunmore Bren. Becoming a mother was one of the greatest joys of her life, but the marriage did not last. By 1947, she and Dunmore had divorced. Despite the separation, Charles remained at the center of her world. The following year, she married Hollywood producer Milton Bren. This was the marriage that truly lasted, bringing stability and happiness for over 3 decades. Milton had 2 sons from a previous marriage, Donald and Peter Bren, and Trevor embraced them as her own. Donald later became a billionaire real estate developer, but in their home, family always came before fame or fortune. Trevor and Milton lived in Newport Beach, where they created a life that was glamorous yet deeply grounded in love and companionship. Then came an unimaginable tragedy on September 25, 1978. Her son Charles was on PSA Flight 182 when it collided midair with a Cessna over San Diego. The crash killed all 137 people on board as well as 7 on the ground, making it one of the deadliest aviation disasters in U.S. history. Trevor was devastated. Charles had taken Milton's last name, and the bond between them had been incredibly strong. Just over a year later, in 1979, Milton Bren died from a brain tumor. Losing both her son and husband in such a short time left her shattered. After Milton's death, she found it difficult to stay in Newport Beach. She once described it as a place for couples, a place where she no longer belonged. In 1980, she sold her home and moved back to New York City, hoping to find comfort in the city where she had been born. She lived in a Fifth Avenue apartment, occasionally taking acting roles, but Hollywood no longer felt like her world. By the mid-1980s, she returned to California for good, choosing a quieter life focused on philanthropy and supporting young artists. Trevor spent 7 decades in Hollywood, starring in more than 60 films and earning both an Academy Award and an Emmy. But in 1987, when she retired from acting, she turned her attention to something just as meaningful. She wanted to give back to the world that had shaped her. So, she dedicated the rest of her life to supporting young artists. She believed creativity wasn't just a talent people were born with. It was something that had to be nurtured, and she wanted to make sure the next generation had the opportunities they needed to grow. Her commitment to the arts wasn't just about writing checks or making appearances. She spent her time at the University of California, Irvine, where she mentored students at the School of the Arts. She sat in on rehearsals, watched performances, and shared stories from her years in Hollywood. She knew what it took to succeed, and she wanted to pass that knowledge on. Her presence became a source of encouragement for students who were just beginning to find their voices. People who knew her said she found real joy in seeing young artists develop their craft. She didn't just support their dreams, she helped make them possible. After her passing in 2000, her legacy became something even greater. That same year, the University of California, Irvine renamed its School of the Arts in her honor, ensuring that her name would be tied to the creative world forever. This tribute was made possible by her stepson, Donald Bren, a well-known philanthropist and chairman of the Irvine Company, who donated $10 million to the school. It wasn't just a gesture of respect for Trevor's career, it was a continuation of the work she had started, a way to give young artists the tools they needed to succeed. That donation led to major improvements across the school. The CLA Trevor Theater was renovated, providing students with a state-of-the-art space for performances. Other departments, including drama, music, art, and dance, benefited from upgrades that turned the school into a nationally recognized leader in arts education. Today, more than 800 undergraduate and graduate students pass through its doors each year, training in facilities that include digital arts labs, concert halls, and galleries.